Hello, general psychology students. So the purpose of this very short video is to talk about observational learning. We're in chapter 6, the psychology of learning chapter, and the first video talked about classical conditioning. The second video talked about operant conditioning. This video is going to talk about observational learning. And as part of this video, I really want you to watch 2 YouTube videos that you'll see posted. One is about Bandura's doll experiment, and one is about mirror neurons. So some of the reason why this video is going to be so short is because you're going to actually be watching these 2 YouTube videos. So let me call up the PowerPoint slide. Okay. There we go. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint slide about observational learning. And of course, observational learning is when we learn through observing another person's behavior. And the person who did some revolutionary work in this area was Bandura. And one of his studies we call, or series of studies, we call the Bobo doll studies, or Bobo doll. And there's a picture of the Bobo doll right there. The Bobo doll stands as high as a small child. And it's like blown up with air for most of it, but the very bottom of it is heavy. So when you approach a Bobo doll, you could hug it, you could tap it from side to side and watch it dance, you could punch it and it would go back and up as you punched it. So what Bandura wanted to look at and study was how do children, how does modeling work? How does observational learning occur? So what he would do is he would have children observe an adult interact with the Bobo doll. And some of the adults would hug the Bobo doll. Some of the adults would punch the Bobo doll. Some of the kids wouldn't watch a film at all. And then Bandura would let the child go into a room that had the Bobo doll. And he'd see, what does the child do? And what he found was that girls who watched a female model beat up the Bobo doll were very likely to go in and beat up the Bobo doll. And boys who watch a male model beat up a Bobo doll were really likely, when they got to see the Bobo doll, to beat up the Bobo doll. In another study, he actually set it up where he could look at the consequences that happened to the model. So some of the kids watched a video where the model beats up the Bobo doll and then is praised for it. Look at you, you won. There's other kids watch a video where the model beat up the Bobo doll and nothing happened, okay? Other kids watch a video where the model beat up the Bobo doll and then an adult comes in, and the first person's an adult too, but an adult comes in and says, how dare you? You now, you have to go into time out or whatever. They get punished for beating up the Bobo doll. And then another group of kids don't watch the video at all. So they don't know anything about Bobo dolls or how to respond to Bobo dolls. And all of these kids are then given an opportunity to get in a room and play with the Bobo doll. Not all at the same time, obviously, but after they see the video. And what Bandura found is it didn't seem to matter the consequence that happened to the model. So basically, the kids who were least likely to beat up the Bobo doll were the kids who never saw the model beat up the Bobo doll. So the kids who saw the model beat up the Bobo doll and then get punished for it, they were still more likely to beat up that Bobo doll than kids that never watched an adult interact with the Bobo doll that way. So Bandura was one of the first researchers who let us see, wow, we learn a lot of behavior from watching models, especially same-sex models. Now, when we try to explain this, we explain it in part through, it could be that some of it is innate. Other animals innately observe what others are doing and imitate it. But it also could be due to these mirror neurons. And that's why after you're done with me, once you're done with this video talking, I'd like you to watch the clip, the YouTube video of one of the Bobo doll studies from Bandura. And then I want you to watch the video clip that talks about the mirror neurons. It's a little clip from a news article, and it really explains mirror neurons great. My personal experience with mirror neurons I had a friend who used to be a developmental psychologist at Cameron, and her office was next to mine, and we started meeting for lunch fairly regularly. And she was a vegetarian, so a great place for us to eat was at one of the Chinese buffets. So we would show up the very first day we showed up at the buffet, and I tried to eat with chopsticks, and I hadn't done that. And so I barely could get any food into my mouth. The food was just going everywhere. And she kind of laughed at me, and we had a good laugh. And then she was eating with the chopsticks. And then we'd go there almost every day to one of these things, and she'd always eat with chopsticks, and I'd always eat with a fork so I could shovel it in much more efficiently, given my inability with chopsticks. Well, after she'd been at Cameron for close to a year, she decided this wasn't a good fit for her, and she got a job at one of the schools in Colorado. So it was one of our last days eating. We knew it was going to be really sad because I wouldn't see her regularly anymore. And she said, let's go back to one of the Chinese restaurants, and I want to see you watch with chopsticks again. I remember that just being hilarious, how you couldn't eat with them at all. And, that would be a great ending for this year. And, hopefully you'll come and visit me and I'll come and visit you, but let's do that. And I went to eat with the chopsticks and I had no trouble. And I was like, oh my goodness. My mirror neurons had been watching her day in and day out and were practicing how to eat. And even though I wasn't practicing, some part of me was. And then when I went to do it, I didn't have any problem doing it. This can happen if you visualize yourself doing things. So if you're an athlete and you get hurt, while you're hurt and you can't keep practicing, you can visualize what you're doing. And at least your mirror neurons, or in this case, other visualization neurons maybe, are going to be practicing what you're doing. And there's some benefit from that. And so observational learning is very powerful. It works really, really, really well. And oftentimes with observational learning, you don't even know that you're learning it. You start imitating what people are doing, and you're even unaware that you're imitating them. And so you'll see oftentimes kids will have expressions or ways that they move their hands that are similar to their parents or their primary caregivers. They learned it through observational learning. So one of the reasons that we think what we watch on TV can be so important, because lots of observational learning happens from watching TV. Okay, so that is the end of the videos I'm going to give. Make sure that you watch the video on the mirror neurons and the video of the Bobo doll. I also have posted cute little excerpts from, I think it's The Office and Big Bang Theory, that show some classical conditioning and some operant conditioning. And I hope you have a good time with the discussion board this week, where you'll be able to share some examples. Okay, if you have any questions, please email me, maryd@cameron.edu. This tends to be one of the harder chapters for students, but it's also a fun one. And you're going to start to see how much of your behavior has been reinforced or punished in the past. And if you have a behavior now that you want to either increase or decrease, you can give yourself punishments or reinforcers and change it yourself. So I'm not always a big fan of grading. So a lot of times I say, after I grade 5 papers, I can have an M&M. And every 5 papers, I can have an M&M. It's a fixed ratio schedule, but it keeps me grading. So see if you can find something like that for you. All right, email me if you have any questions, maryd@cameron.edu.